All right, today's Saturday, July 9th, 2022. We're going to be putting some work in on the 68. Yesterday, we finished up the Raptor liner. It's kind of a two-part process because we didn't have enough, I think because of the color, like I said previously. So, it's quite a bit of overspray on this thing. It's pretty amazing. So, that's why I think that it's important to do the Raptor after the first primer. After the last primer and before the final sand, because this thing's going to get sanded anyways, 400 grit, and it comes right off. So if we had done the Raptor first and before the final prime, then you're going to get overspray on the bottom of the car, gray, and it's not going to look good. If you do the Raptor after the final sand, then you're left with the overspray that you have to sand again. So it's kind of a process that I've learned. So I'm not sure that we're going to be doing much to the shell. We're trying to figure out how we're gonna accomplish this paint job, because we have limited days on when we can paint, because we all work full-time jobs, and we really don't want it to sit in 400 longer than 2 days max before we get base coat on it. So kind of a scheduling conflict. And we would like to do the jams first. So we got to do some thought process on that to figure out how we're going to accomplish this. It's also really hard to reach the center of the roof from the side of the car because the car's so wide. So you can get inside the moonroof. It's one option. But we really need a hose man to do that because it gets kind of tricky. Could stand in the trunk, paint the roof, which is an option. We'll see. So today we're going to be focusing on is all these other parts. I think we're going to be body working the hood. You can see where we did some rust repair down there. It's not the best metal finishing, but we're going to get it right. These little parts I plan to paint probably Monday morning. Valances, rear corners, other valance, possibly the underside of the trunk, top of the moonroof, maybe not the fenders. So what we're going to be doing is focusing on these parts today. Get them ready for color on Monday. This place needs a complete wash from top to bottom. So we're going to be doing that too, pressure washing the whole place, vacuuming out any spider webs and sweeping out and cleaning up and all this stuff over here, all this stuff over here. Got to get this place cleaned up. It's been a while. It's probably been over a year since I cleaned this place. So it's good for primer. It's not good for trying to spray clear. So that's today's progress, or today's process, going to be prepping these panels in here for paint, getting this room cleaned up. Not a whole lot going on. And then I think the 68, we're aiming to be painting the shell 2 weeks from today. Hopefully. Got the bottom in Raptor. Looks great. Looks nice and clean. All the stuff should be going to powder coat here this week. Come back with a complete powder coated chassis, put it together, set the painted body on the frame, and we're rolling. So bring you guys back once we get some work in. If you look at one side, that side is thicker than this side.
Oh, and then
yeah, so we're gonna have to cut off this centerpiece, and then that one goes over there. But just for what you're doing right now, it's okay. Yeah, because you're just gonna make a hole. So how did you decide where you wanted them? Just eyeballed
I looked at Instagram.
Okay.
We threw some stuff at it,
and it just fell where it needed to be.
Yeah. Now,
It happens a lot.
So I looked at Instagram. A lot of the Impalas that are running these type of antennas had them at a certain spot.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm gonna say the truth now. We had Bobby pose with the car, and, to show off the antenna.
Actually, Bobby put out the tape measure, and he said, "Okay, it's 3 inches and 2 little sticks."
So they're 61, 62 antennas.
Yes.
With 60 bases.
With 60 gaskets. Why? Because they're flatter than the 62. Or no, the 60 bases are flatter than the 62.
And more angle.
It ain't more angle?
The 62 has more of
of an angle.
because this part on the deuce and the ace, it does this.
Right. And
so
the 60
it has
is more flat.
It has a lot to make up straight. And the 60 doesn't have as much. So.
Grab that.
And that gasket itself is the driver's side.
Yeah.
So the thickness goes on the outside. So this thickness this is two different thicknesses. And that's going to make the antenna sit more level. Put some dent be gone on the hood.
Yep.
We got it by the gallon. Yep. So I'm gonna start wet sanding all these little parts here. I don't know if we're gonna spray them today, but I'll definitely get them this weekend, before the end of the weekend. Got the room all cleaned up. So moving right along, I'll bring you guys back once we get some more work. All right, we got these things in 400. I just wiped them down, wax and grease remover. We're gonna seal it, gray epoxy. Pegboard worked really good. Kind of wedge the studs in there, get everything off, so you get all the edges, hopefully. So right now they're in white epoxy, 400 grit. I just mixed up 6 ounces of gray, 1 to 1 to 1. That's 1 epoxy, 1 activator, 1 reducer, 2 ounces of each. I'm spraying it at about 20 psi with a DeVille bisque. That's my epoxy gun. Let it sit for about 30 minutes, come back in and go straight to base coat. So these things, they don't have no 2K primer on them, it's just all epoxy. They were real good pieces to begin with. No dings, no dents, so we just D8 them down, 80 grit, shot epoxy over them. Sanded the epoxy with 180 or 220, I believe, and then another round of epoxy, and then 400. So hopefully these things come out nice. It's 97 degrees in here right now. It's pretty hot, 48% humidity. Let's get these sprayed. Right, so we're about ready to spray some yellow. Went with the Lonestar brand, which mixes 2 to 1. It's kind of important to remember that. I'm not used to that. I just reminded myself right before I poured it. I'm spraying it with Iwata orange cap 1.3. Everything is sealed up in the gray reduced epoxy. I think when we do the shell, we're going to reduce it, stick to my old way of 20%, because the 1 to 1 to 1, I had to basically coat it twice, but everything is sealed up, pretty uniform for the most part. It's really hot out here. So we're curious how this yellow is going to cover. It's 100 degrees. I'm going to go at least 3 coats on the minimum, but I'm hoping that we get good coverage with 2, and the 3 is insurance. We'll see. Hopefully it don't cost more than that, because I have to buy more paint. Bring y'all back. Right, so I got everything in 3 coats. 3 coats covered it pretty good. I think we got complete coverage after 2, but I put 3 on there anyways. So it's been flashing off for 45 minutes. In here. And it's 102. Yeah, man. So we're gonna be spraying this Universal, SPI Universal. I hadn't sprayed this stuff in a few years. I've been on the Euro, where we went with Universal, mixes 1 to 1. This is their top of the line stuff. Actually, I had some left over, and I didn't have any activator, so went ahead and threw that in there, using slow activator. 102 degrees. Probably gonna wait 15 minutes between coats, 15-20 minutes maybe. Yeah. I'm spraying with a 1.4 Iwata, LPH 400, 35 PSI. Same gun as the base gun except the 1.4 tip. I'll bring y'all back once they're cleared. All right, so here we are. 3 coats of the Universal Clear, 1-to-1. Sprayed it at 35 PSI, and I mixed up, it took 30 ounces, 10 coats each ounce. So the results are in. Of course, these are just some small pieces, but man, it's really, really glossy. That little bug right there decided to land on the last round. I believe this goes below the back bumper. So it's just a solid color, so it doesn't really have any, you know, pop to it, but it's definitely bright in the sun. And then this piece here, this is below the front bumper. So the process for this was no 2K primer. What we did was D8 them, and we got the header panel here. D8 them 80 grit, epoxy, 180 the epoxy, re-epoxy, 400 the epoxy. Then we sprayed reduced epoxy, 1-to-1-to-1 gray as a sealer, 3 coats of the Lonestar base, mixes 2-to-1, and then 3 coats of the Universal Clear, which is their top shelf stuff. It's been a few years since I sprayed the Universal, and it's probably been since like maybe 2018. And I've learned a lot since then, so I'm back on this. This clear is amazing. Spray at 35 PSI, you get glass results right out the gun. It's good stuff. So I think it's going to conclude this video. We're going to continue this weekend, or Monday I should say, probably get the fenders painted. Maybe this moonroof cover here, and go from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Gonna cut this little series off. Bring you guys back when we get some more work.